It's like Fight Club.
Wait, okay, so we have a news source that I want to go over with you guys. Pre-news. Yeah, this is like pre-show banter.
Oh man.
Go ahead, bring it up.
Wait,
Wow.
I don't see us on YouTube yet.
Oh, we're not
It's
on
a little
the
slow.
YouTubes? Oh no.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Now we're official.
We're official live? Okay. Bring up the pre-show news.
All right, let me get the link over because I had to hide it to be a surprise.
Someone told me about this and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And I was like, I need to talk about this with you guys. Did you hear about the woman who was sentenced to 9 years for stealing $1.5 million worth of chicken wings?
Okay, I need more information.
Yeah.
So during COVID, this lady worked, I believe she worked for a school board, Cook County Jail. That's where she's going. She worked for the Illinois School District, right? And she ordered all the food for them. Well, she kept ordering chicken wings, and then when she got audited, they found out, hey, like, where are all these chicken wings? We can't find them. And then they did more auditing and realized this lady ordered quite a lot of chicken wings. What's going on here? And so turned out to be 1.5 million. Last I read, they don't know where the chicken wings went or what she did with them. Black market chicken wings, I'm guessing.
I mean, I can't imagine giving a bunch of elementary schoolers chicken wings to begin with, or their hands are going to be disgusting for the rest of the day.
Their hands are disgusting anyway.
This is like
a school ordering chicken wings should set off so many red flags. Anyway.
I was saying, you want to talk about behavioral analytics, right? It's like the school cafeteria is ordering chicken wings for 5-year-olds. Wait a minute.
Hold on.
This is like black market food truck stuff or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny.
Exactly
So it actually is funny because in the article it literally says she discovered individual invoices for chicken wings, an item that was never served to students because they contain bones. So like that actually was the tip off.
Wow.
Oh wow! So actually,
nice.
chickens have to be in nugget form to be given to kids. That's interesting.
So now we need to know. Was it like a local Buffalo Wild Wings? Like, is this how they?
Right.
Who
It's
was
gonna be
buying all this
So-
on black market chicken?
Well, let me find
read
it.
it.
So then there's like a second part of the story where
132 cases of
Yeah.
chicken wings. Like, what is it? Are they having a wing eating contest at school?
So the Chiefs, Chris Jones from the Chiefs, who I don't know what position he plays, saw this article and offered to pay the school for the wings so the lady wouldn't go to jail.
What?
I'll pay for the wings she stole to get her free, but that actually isn't
Yeah,
how laws
Don't
work.
ask me why.
That isn't how laws work. It's not like, well, if you pay, that's called a fine. If you can pay and it's not illegal, that's called a fine.
But
Why
That's
did he
wild.
offer to do that?
Because
there
he
you go.
likes wings.
Citrell in the
He
chat.
understands.
False
Maybe-
orders,
Wings.
which he then resold.
let's put our
He
tinfoil
likes
hats
wings.
on. Maybe
It's
he
that
was the one
simple.
getting the wings.
He owns a lot of
He
wing
gambled
stops.
away the proceeds.
He owns a lot of wing stops in the local area.
Oh, so you think that he was buying the wings and felt
No, I'm just saying this is what marketing has. This is marketing in 2024. You don't buy a billboard. You just defend people on Twitter and then spend $1.5 million on wings.
Here's what's impressive. She was getting the wings and she made 1.5 million in total, but she gambled it all away and filed for bankruptcy twice.
Twice. Not
What
once,
is-
but twice.
Okay, when is
Generally,
this?
if you have a gambling addiction, if you were good at it, you'd probably stop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, is this going to be like a Netflix show called The Wing Ring or something?
Yes,
Like, what-
yes. Netflix is on this documentary right now.
After the first, like, I'll never financially recover from this. After the first bankruptcy.
yeah.
And she's like, wait, I
this
can
is-
just get more wings.
Do over.
Wing
This is
queen
sad.
or something.
This is sad, but I will say it is hilarious. Like during a mid-year audit, the district's business manager discovered the food service had already surpassed their budget by $300,000. How did it not? How did it not?
Why is there
trip
not a
some-
red flag when like 2
Yeah.
months through the year, it's not like already at the end of budget, right? Like,
I mean, honestly, that and like what there's lots of checks and balances that could have been in place here, and they weren't, and people take advantage of it, and here we are.
So here's the security lesson: get some alerts for some suspicious
Thresholds,
right? Thresholds, right?
If
Honestly,
food has
though,
bone
it's
alert.
honestly you see that you don't see that nearly often enough in people whose job it is to tune alerts. And like, are you really
Yes.
shocked that some random school doesn't have
Yeah.
audit?
I'm gonna tell you,
milestones?
I'm gonna put that alert directly into my local school's Splunk right now. If ordered for chicken with bones.
dude, you don't have log data for chicken wings. Get out of here. I will say though, for real, honestly, the only place this could have gone is a commercial source. No one can get rid
No
of
one can buy that
$1.5
many
million. Like, there's no block party that serves 132 cases of wings valued at $17,000. Like, that's a quantity.
Not even the Super Bowl.
Yes.
There's a quantity that is a quantity that only a commercial provider can reach. 130 cases of wings for $17,000. Like,
Oh my god! And a shocking announcement: the person she bought it from was actually buying them back.
so someone go on Facebook and search on Facebook Marketplace and search like wings Illinois 2020.
Well, if they could have gotten crab legs, I think that would have been more efficient.
True.
No,
True.
knowing the suburb that she was in, because I just looked up the story. It's a rather impoverished. God, that's a tough word to say. Suburb of.
Okay, but
of
how many
Chicago.
how many wing shops are there?
Yo, there's got to be at least a couple.
And what is the
Yeah,
highest
but-
rated one and says they have amazing prices?
Here's the kicker, though. If she's going ahead and giving extra wings, especially during COVID, to families that were in need, I could go ahead and see it because the meals were already paid for through the property taxes through school districts.
I mean, maybe, but $300K in wings is a little excessive.
Yeah.
No one needs that many wings parties.
My
have
God,
bones.
from the wing story, like, I can't even comprehend how many wings that was.
Yeah.
I know.
cannot-
Someone should do the math. At the average price, how many wings are in a case?
Yes.
All right, bring up Costco. Bring up Costco's.
Well, no, and it's better than that because it's at school pricing. Like, it
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
It's got to be cheap. All right, here we go. I'm on Gordon Food Service.
Case sale, 40 pounds average weight. Costco.
Oh my god! Now
No,
they're gonna be
this-
like
this
on
is-
Reddit. They did the math, and then Jack Recider's gonna come out with an episode.
Yeah.
Diaries.
I mean, someone in the comments already said true stories from the fried side of the internet.
Yes. The comment, by the way, is where I got that from. And by the way, keep them coming because this is so much fun to read.
Okay, this is a case of them, bone-in split, 12 to 14 count per pound, 5 pounds. So that's $143 a case.
Oh my
So
god!
let's see, 12 to 14, let's say 13 times 5, 65 wings, 8, 65 times 8. So one case of wings is 500-ish wings. And she ordered 140 of them.
Oh my god!
20. So one of these was 73,000 wings. One of these hauls. And she did like multiple hauls.
One haul.
Who-
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Who can eat 73,000 wings? No
The
one.
only
You would
place
need a
to
huge
get was
refrigerator.
straight to Vegas.
You
They
would
don't
need a
have a long
refrigerator,
shelf
like-
life.
Yeah,
Where
I was
do you
about to
put
also-
these?
think of the refrigerator you would need to store them. So you'd need a semi. So that,
need a
that we're
walk-in,
limiting down
dude.
a walk-in.
Oh my
No,
God.
not even
All
a
right.
walk-in. That
Roll
would
the
take up
finger.
the whole walk-in.
Yeah,
Roll the finger.
this will never stop. We'll be
Roll
we
the
can talk
finger.
all day.
Hello and welcome to Black Hills Information Security's Talkin Bout News. It's August 19th, 2024. None of us have stolen any wings today, but we hope that you didn't either. Welcome, everyone. I'll run through for the audio listeners. There's so many smart people here who shall remain nameless until they speak. And then you'll know exactly who they are based on their voices because you're just a regular listener.
That's fine.
That's helpful.
So
Very
does anyone
helpful.
want to know my
Go with
social
it.
security number?
Did you get,
You
did
might
you
as
get
well
the
at
data
this
for
point,
the breach?
right?
I mean, you could be like the guy who put it on the truck and just drove around and said you can't steal this, and then he got his identity theft
Oh, the
stolen.
LifeLock guy.
The LifeLock guy? Yeah. So there's
Oh,
basically
he actually
two...
got popped?
Oh, like
Oh,
he got
great.
popped multiple times. Yeah.
I had no
No.
idea. That's great.
That's the best part. It's like you think you can, but you can't. The only security is through obscurity. It's not through LifeLock.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So the story is National Public Data, which is just a ridiculous name for a company anyway. It just sounds like they already got breached from the from the onset. It's like public data. They should have a sign that says "Hackers welcome." Like, what is going on?
Well, it sounds like they had a self-own on this one.
Yeah. Well, so this is basically a fly-by-night data broker that
Aren't they all?
had access. Yeah, I mean, I guess arguably Equifax is more than fly-by-night, but are they?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll know.
I mean,
Who
maybe.
knows? Yeah. So this is basically, I think they're based in Florida or something.
That's
But
where they're
basically,
Florida.
data broker got breached, and as you'd imagine, when data brokers get breached, there's lots of sensitive data that's disclosed, and the one that's making the news for the most is social security numbers for the majority of Americans. Now, there is conflicting information out there on how many customers were actually affected, right? Like the data broker themselves said 1.2 million were affected, but then like all the news articles said every American. So I don't really know which is the truth.
Isn't the current population like 300 million, right?
I think it's over 3. It's like 380 or something. Yeah.
So I mean, everyone would be like closer to 300 million, right?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I do a lot of the analysis of these kinds of breaches, and like, do you go by number of records? How do you validate? If this data broker had my social security number saved as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever, how do they know whether that's like, total number of records versus who they had to notify? I don't know. But basically, we were talking about this before the show, but there's two takes for this. One is, does it even matter anymore? like, is it even newsworthy that like our social security numbers have leaked? I don't know.
Isn't it?
Or is
Or
it question. Get this.
I think for me the biggest tell as to whether it matters or not is the everyday person. In the past 10 years, I've watched from people asking me, going, "How do I take care of this? What do I do about this?" To, "Oh, somebody else got it now." Okay, big deal.
Why doesn't?
I mean, you would think that if somebody gets your password, what you do is you change your password. You can't change your social security number.
Why does it matter?
Isn't
Why does the government use it in a way that you can compromise someone's identity? Why not just make it a public number that everyone can know, but it doesn't allow you to do anything?
Well,
right?
it's not just the government, right? It's honestly, it's abused. The government actually, the official stance is this should not be used for identification purposes. That's like the official, that's the official, but because we don't have a national identity system, that's just become a unique identifier. Like first and last name isn't good enough. Even middle initial still isn't good enough. Even if you add date of birth, I mean, there's 380 million Americans. If you have John M. Smith born on this day, there's probably more than one of those.
This is like a database programmer's like.
Right. It's
like,
so
this
simple.
is what happened. He just sat around and he was like, "Hey, all right, we can't go off that. We'll go off that." Hey, they all have this number that's unique to every person.
Yes.
Yeah, but the counterpoint though is Europe doesn't have a social security number, and they don't have that same sort of ID system. They figured it out, and if you count all those big giant countries over there combined, they solved it. And to go back to the other point too, like Rhode Island, it's forbidden by Rhode Island law to use social security numbers as an identifier, whereas like I live in Texas, I have to use it for my insurance. Like I don't know why you need it, but
they do have. So some, I mean, I don't know, but Googling it, there are national identity cards in most European countries.
Yeah,
so
I mean, like Europe hasn't really solved it, right? Like you can still have your identity stolen in Europe, can't you? Is it?
I mean, any identifier.
Yeah, they
have
national identities. We don't. We don't like. We have state. Like think about your driver's license, right? I guess you have your passport number, but not every American has a passport number. Like. We don't have a national identity, so we have social security numbers instead, I guess.
Isn't it? So I was reading some LinkedIn posts about this, and everyone was saying like it's pretty much policy now to just have your social security and your credit locked, like, and then you open it up. I want to know who here has ever actually locked their actual credit down.
I have
like,
I've locked.
Yeah, all three are locked.
Perma freeze, baby.
Not myself. I use a service, but yeah.
It's not that hard to do.
The other thing that on that note, actually, a lot of people don't consider when you're locking your own down is if you've got kids, lock theirs down. Because otherwise there are a number of well-known cases where kids have come to maturity and they've already got like a 10-year long bad credit history because somebody grabbed their social security number and has been doing bad stuff for a decade plus.
I got a story on that. My hospital where my son was born was compromised during his birth. It was literally because the social security number also goes to the hospital. It was stolen before I got it.
Wow.
Not an exaggeration. Like, holy crap, that is a
preemptive theft.
Of all people, that's so ironic that it happened to you. They're like, come on. You should have been like, you should hire Red Siege for a pen test next time, guys.
What's your work history like? I know that you're less than 1 year old. So
yeah, you go to apply to school and they're like, well, you went to Harvard 20 years ago. You're like, I did.
So, that's the irony. Like, I'm almost not even mad if somebody uses that, like, at the time 1 year old's social security number, because if the credit card company is that dumb, like, that's on them. Right. Good luck.
Yeah, they're like, date of birth yesterday. All right, you're approved for a $20,000 line of credit. Congratulations.
We know you can handle it. Get out there, buddy.
Goo goo gaga. Here you go.
So what are you guys using? Like LifeLock or something?
Yeah.
LifeLock.
I just have my.
I just went direct. It takes like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
to
you can go direct
with
to
the
the
agencies.
There's three. Yeah, there's like 3 places, and they all make it pretty easy. I think Credit Karma
online.
maybe can help with it. I don't know. I just do it first party. Yeah.
I think.
I mean, identity theft is like a little subgenre of security, right? Like fraud and identity theft. If you're privacy focused and you're worried about identity theft, there's a lot of other tools that we probably don't know about that are at your disposal. So
yeah, but to someone's earlier point too, like, people ask me like, so what, are you really paranoid about losing stuff? And I'm like, at this point, no, it's gone. And like my credit card number, like, I have zero liability. How much time am I going to time am I going to spend protecting that? But with my social, my hope is just it's gone enough times that so they pick somebody else first.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, most homeowners insurance policies do have identity theft protection. Like, the biggest thing is just know what's happening before it's too late, right? Like, Sean said, if you have 8 years of credit history to fix, that's going to take you a while. But if like someone opens something tomorrow and you find out about it quickly, it's probably not going to get that far.
It's just like defending a network, right? You should assume you're already compromised. So how do you build protections around that to see when it gets used or when it gets exploited?
Yeah. So I mean, that point, do you guys also check your credit report annually? Your free credit reports?
I do it monthly.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I mean, you get the one free.
Check
no
your bank
matter what.
statements. Check your credit card bills. Check it all.
And stuff
I mean, most banks. I mean, to the point of like, Tim mentioned this in passing, but who has the liability? A lot of the time it's not the consumer, right? Because if someone takes my credit card, steals it, and runs up a huge tab, I'm just going to go tell the credit card provider to fix it. I'm not going to pay it.
Well, they'll fight you on that, though.
Well, yeah,
they'll tell you to prove that it wasn't you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
I've never had
fine.
that.
I have had that happen where someone dinged my credit for a car, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And then I realized I'm like, I honestly wasn't old enough to even rent a car then. So I called them, and they're like, "Well, we don't know who this was then." I'm like, "I don't know, but you need to take it off my credit." And they actually did. They went all the way through it. It took several phone calls for me to prove that, send them my ID, show them I don't even have that. Then later on, I found out it was my dad. He didn't, and it wasn't that he used my number, is that he got dinged, and they just chose me because I was we have the same 2 names, and we're living at the same address. So,
and accidentally typed in a different social security number.
Nah. My dad was good like that. He wouldn't have done that. I will admit that. That's the one thing out of all the shady
I mean, if you're trying to buy a car, they're allowed to steal your identity. That's the rule.
Honestly,
but no, I mean, so a couple other things around the story. One is that people are doing some digging. Krebs published a great article on like just the site and like the company behind it, and researchers have been kind of giving them attention because, of course, they are. And they actually have discovered that like one of the sister sites of the company just exposes the usernames and passwords for the admins or other like. So I guess the way I read this, and I'm curious to hear other people's takes on this, should there be some kind of security, like regulatory, whatever requirements for data brokers? Because they seem like really easy targets. And it kind of blows my mind that they could be really insecure to this level. I know it's true in the finance industry, but I'm curious, like, is this a new industry we need to regulate where like you have to prove that like you got a pen test or whatever? Like, I don't know. What do people think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, considering the information that they are storing on everybody and what it can be used for, identity theft or anything else, like, attacks of any kind that data could be used for, absolutely it should be regulated.
Would it be depending on what type of data they're holding? Because if they tokenize all of it, at least the names and stuff or some part of it, do they get hit with any type of regulatory stuff? So if they're like, I'm sure there's ones out there that hold medical data or payment data and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
do
No,
they
I
actually
mean,
qualify
for sure.
PII or HIPAA?
Well, the
Well,
irony is, the hard part here is it's not your data. You keep saying that it's your data. It's data about you.
Yeah.
But according to the law, they own it. Unlike in Europe, where it's your data, you have rights to it. You really don't have much for rights to that. It's not your data. It's their data that they lost. It just happens to be about you. So do I think there should be regulations surrounding that and changing that? Absolutely. But it's almost the wrong question, not to be this.
No,
Yeah.
The first
Absolutely.
question is do we need, and the answer to this is yes, do we need to go ahead and have a law in place where the data becomes ours, like a GDPR?
That'd be lovely.
Well, there's that, and I remember not long ago, like maybe it was a month or maybe a little longer ago, we had another news story that was about data brokers selling information on Americans to foreign adversaries. So like we need regulation for that reason too, that not only are the types of data that you can store regulated and the way that you store it regulated, but who you can sell it to should also be regulated.
Yeah. No, for sure. I will say, like, we've talked about a few on the show, and I'm sure Sean is just chomping at the bit to jump in here, but there are coming laws restricting specifically data brokers. I know, like, in my state, Oregon, they actually do have, like, a new law that just went into effect that's basically, like, regulating data brokers, how much data they're allowed to have, all that stuff. Like, they have to register. They literally have to register as, like, a known data broker. So, I don't know, Sean, what do you think? Are we still screwed, or are the laws going to help us?
I mean, we're still screwed, at least unless there's anything at the national level. I'm not aware of anything at the actual federal level. I mean, that's the classic problem with all data privacy in the United States, right? It's all at the state level. So there's 50 different jurisdictions that all have different rules. And you've got like California, which has basically GDPR light in place at the state level. But then you have other states that have like next to nothing, like breach notification.
Yeah, and other
requirements
states
are
are
a great
allowed to
example
have
of
our
that.
data. It's not like there's a law in Florida that says you can't have data for people that live in Oregon, right? So
Right.
like,
No,
it doesn't.
actually, it says that you're allowed.
Like, it needs a congressional act.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I guess last thing on this is like, I did want to bring this up. So for continuous pen testing, like the service that I run, we always recommend that our clients don't use social security numbers as a validation mechanism for people's identities, because I mean, we before already had everyone's social security numbers, but now with this new breach, really have everyone's social security numbers. So like using social security number or last four, you should assume any adversary that calls your help desk to do social engineering is going to know the last four of the target social security number and more. So like for SIM swapping, for help desk social engineering, just across the board, anytime we see a customer that's using SSNs as a validation technique for identity, we say, this is bad. Don't do it. So that's just a PSA. Don't use SSN for any kind of identity validation. Even though everyone does it, like, don't do it. We recommend they don't do it. So anyway, just throwing that out there for anyone that's curious.
Yeah, but what's the better solution? I mean, I get saying that's not the fix, but
Wade got triggered when you said that, so I'll let him go. I have an answer too.
Is there a spider over there?
Eye scan, retinal scans. I don't know.
No. It's all
Windows
about
Hello
security
scans for
questions.
everybody.
Yeah.
There's actually a website. What is it? Goodsecurityquestions.com or something? Yeah, that's what it is.
So I think the other one too is like human identification, right? And don't say video. There's all the AI stuff is really exploding, right? So having them physically come into the building, right? Like whatever that case is, that's a great way too.
Yeah,
I mean, what we provide. So what the official, like what the finding says is we recommend good security questions, like set something up ahead of time. Essentially, like our recommendation is this: set something up ahead of time. This is a scenario where a company is validating an employee. Now, if it's just like Verizon, but I will say this is becoming more common. What's your PIN? What's the number you set up? What security questions are used? Basically, security questions are the only answer that isn't deploy security keys, which is great. That's a great option if you can do biometrics or security keys. But like Verizon isn't going to roll out security keys to 100 million customers. Like, so it comes down to security questions, and the security questions should be hard to research and pre-generated, and like, the people should be able to pick their own answers. That's like the simplest answer. But yeah, it's tough.
Maybe I'll just swap keys with them, right? Like do the whole.
I mean, honestly, like another thing
that's
not a bad idea. Like another thing we do recommend to our customers is like use an approved channel to get an identity verification another way. Like call them on the phone, text them, send them a duo push, whatever, or an octa push, or get a code from them, or like whatever it is. Like that kind of like validation via a previously approved secure channel, right, is a good one. But anyway, what other articles are banging around in this notion?
I did there's one in there now, but I also did a little bit of research on the ransomware hub group deploys EDR-Killer, which it's not that great. It's just
well, so
is it not that exciting?
Most
kill as a
EDRs
service,
easy to kill. Like, how do you like get on the box and you're just like, you know what, turn it off? That's I've been missing this switch for whole 10 years.
It's another bring your own drivers, right? Bring your own vulnerable driver vulnerability.
Yeah.
Where they just bring it in and then shut down the EDR. We've seen it a couple times. It's the one with like the Grim Reaper and like the red lock.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
I will say the AI generated art.
Yeah,
the AI generated art is so cool. But
Explosive.
this, at least in the world of, I don't know, this is we talk about articles like this a lot. Here's what I would say. In the world of cutting edge cybersecurity, aka you listening to this podcast, it's not that big of a deal. But in the world of like commoditized ransomware that anyone can buy, this makes it way easier, right? So it's like, I think it's like, yes, is this technique known? Yes. But at the same time, making it available to everyone on this forum or wherever, and making it cheap means that could have a huge impact. Like most of the malware we see that actually compromises organizations shouldn't work. Like it shouldn't work.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. So like this probably
Theoretical
falls
should.
into that category of like, this is nothing new. It probably shouldn't work, but it does.
I think the main fix for this was to make sure that users don't have the rights to install drivers. That was
I mean, it requires admin, like Michael.
It requires admin, which
totally
you should never have users with local admin, but guess what people do? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they should have to priv escalate on that box, and then your EDR should have caught them at that point doing all of that.
Yeah. The other article we should talk about is that T-Mobile fine. Did everyone see this?
Did T-Mobile get fined for doing something good?
So it's kind of funny because I was actually talking to a family member. They were like, hey, what cell carrier should I get? And I was like, well, T-Mobile's fine, but they do get breached every 3 years like it's clockwork.
Yeah.
Which is true. They totally
That's
do.
how they keep their prices low.
That's how they keep their prices low. But now they have to roll out this $60 million to every user. So basically, this is the other shoe dropping. They've been breached, as I joked a few seconds ago. T-Mobile has been breached multiple times in multiple ways. Like
it's bad.
Their IR people have to be like the most experienced IR people, right? Like that sounds
that's a
really
funny
bad.
joke.
I'm not
You're
sure
like
that's a
they've been
good
breached
thing.
3 times. They must have learned their lesson. Nope.
Well,
hit 'em
no.
again.
That's the sysadmin's problem, not the IR people, right? We only respond. Like we don't get to put in. We make the recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Basically, I guess my question is 60 million enough?
I was
know
going to
it's
say that. I don't think 60 million really.
Slap on the wrist.
But
Yeah.
that is a lot of money because
For
on
us,
one hand,
it's a lot of money for us. That's not a lot of money for someone of that size. I don't
Okay.
think-
here's the thing. So you're right. For like, okay, let's look up what is the revenue of T-Mobile. I bet it's in the
just
billions.
googling that.
It's billions. If it doesn't
Okay.
start with a B, I'd be surprised.
T-Mobile
19.7 billion with a B.
Okay. So their operating income, that was just income, was 14 billion. So 63 million is, a fraction of a percent of that. However, executives don't look at $60 million checks like they're nothing. And this is going to hurt because they're not going to see it as this is the cost of doing business. They're going to see it as this is something we could have avoided. And $60 million I mean, what do you think the security budget at T-Mobile is? There's no way it's $60 million a year.
No, it's
right?
got to be like $2 a year.
It's got to be way higher, right?
Yeah, but hold on. Yeah, but I don't, because if you look at according to the Googles, they got about a 15% profit margin, which means they make $3 billion with a B profit per year. 60 million off of that? What do you friggin' do?
Nothing.
Sure, but
Don't even notice.
executives look at that like that was my bonus that just evaporated because
No, they still get their bonus.
It doesn't go back that way, though, not
Salaries
practically.
got lowered.
That's a rounding error. You're 3 digits off on before it starts to matter.
You're right. Yeah.
Why don't you think we've implemented like percentage based fines? Is it just because like the corporations won't allow the government? Because I know like there's certain Norwegian countries, right? If you get a ticket, the ticket is based off your income.
This is the largest financial penalty that first of all, the fine was levied by some committee that we've never even heard of called the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. Which
what the heck? Maybe they need to work harder. Like at least they're getting the 60 million ones going, right? Like
so they had to get involved because guess what? T-Mobile isn't based in the U.S.
Or
they aren't owned in the U.S. They're owned by Deutsche Telekom, a German company. So, I mean, I guess I would say they'll probably get theirs. Europe is Europe has way less chill with this kind of thing, so they're probably going to go hard. They're going to get hit hard in Europe. But I mean, Tim's point is accurate, which is this is just the cost of doing business. You can be insecure; it only costs you $60 million a year. That's not actually that much.
And
the joke about the
like you said.
Sorry, Tim. The joke about this is that 60 million sounds big to the everyday person.
Yes.
And so it's theater. It's just like theater security at the airport or anything else. It's theater. Make them see what they want to see. Make them think we're doing something good. In the end, okay, so we find them 60 million. Their tax returns are going to go ahead and more than cover that 60 billion.
Corey, how much is that? How many chicken wings is that?
Oh my god,
that's a good question. Hold on, let me get ChatGPT on that.
Oh,
at $144 a case, 63 million. Let's see, 63.
It's calculating. It's a lot of chicken.
It's 437,000 cases of chicken, which is about there was 500 wings. That's 218 million wings.
So if you
roughly.
look at T-Mobile stock price, I think that what was the announcement for this last week? Their stock is up compared to last week.
Wow.
If you want to know how much or how little people care,
people don't pay attention to this stuff.
They don't care. Yeah. Because it doesn't affect the bottom line.
No, you just have to turn off half the computers in the world, you know.
Customers
Tim's touching on there. There's no headline risk for T-Mobile. Something like this is just not a big enough deal to be a
well, they already
headline.
get breached every. Yeah, this is already like part of their PR strategy, getting breached every 3 years.
Well, the investors know, and they still don't even care.
Because nobody's leaving T-Mobile. So, like, all right, so they lost 60 million, but they didn't lose any customers, right?
True.
So, like,
exactly.
their business model is still sound, right?
Yeah,
so, like, as an investor, you're like, okay, well, they're still making money. This is how much it is. All right, next year, I'll just remember the stock value. It does not include the 60 million they're going to pay next year for the next 5.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess that Roland has an interesting question. Maybe Sean knows. Where does the fine go? Like, what does that get used for? Do we buy people Netflix subscriptions or what?
Chicken wings.
Kids school program. Kids, yeah.
Generally speaking, that ends up being agency money. I have no idea the agency in question, which I've never heard of before.
Safuus. You never heard of Safuus?
Yes.
They're about to triple their head count right now because of this.
Right. Safuus is going to be hiring T-Mobile prosecutors wanted. Yeah, I mean,
they hire them based on the 5-year cycle. So when it comes up, they're like, all right, hire the new T-Mobile ones, bring them in.
Instead of fining
I will say, you know, we've talked about it multiple times on the show, but the whole SolarWinds liability thing that's up in the air right now is probably the only way to really get organizations to buy in, because which, for those that don't know, it's essentially the question of whether executives can be held liable if their organization isn't secure or if they miscommunicate information to the public about how secure their organization is. So, like, I don't know, maybe if the executives can actually go to jail or get, become liable, that maybe that'll get them to listen. But clearly $60 million fine is not enough to get them to pay attention. So I don't know. Is that tax deductible, by the way? Probably.
Oh,
anyway.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a nice little write-off.
Yeah.
Also, just a quick correction. Apparently, most of the time it goes to the Treasury Department to do with as they see fit, and then sometimes it goes to the agency in question. So I misspoke.
So $60 million off the multiple hundreds of trillions.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so apparently, according to my quick Google search, fines and penalties are not deduction. Disallowed.
Oh, that sucks.
That does suck.
You get double taxed on that. The finance department, the CFO's gonna cry with his $100 bills couch that he has.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about these ENV files, Corey?
Yeah, let's talk about the ENV files. I think that's a good cloud discussion to have.
Which one is this?
So this is it's something like 230 million.
It's at the top.
Yeah.
It's the AWS one, the massive cyber attack.
Okay, so basically,
specifically AWS though. It's
right. It's I mean, it's a cloud thing. I think basically this is Unit 42, which is Palo Alto Networks, has kind of disclosed to the public a campaign that is doing extortion of cloud data, which we've talked about this. I'll probably talk about it in my webcast later this week. But basically, all they do is they enumerate every domain they can on the planet, and then they make a request to that domain with the path of .env. In apparently thousands of or millions of cases, an env file is returned that includes credentials for basically cloud assets, whether that's Lambda or S3 or whatever. A lot of the times people don't use unique cloud credentials. They use one API key that goes everywhere. So apparently and it's ironic because they're also using compromised credentials to do the actual scanning and attacks. But the long story short is victims get a message that basically says, hello, your S3 buckets have been exfiltrated to our data or to our bad guy server. Now you need to pay us or else we're going to release it. So it's basically like cloud hygiene. I will say for continuous pen testing, we use nuclei scans and it will pick them up. These ENV files get picked up super quickly. So yeah.
In case anyone's wondering where these ENV files are coming from, it's not just a bad practice. What it is that a lot of development web frameworks, what they do is they use these ENV files, right, to hold credentials specifically for the deployment of these web applications. A bunch of different frameworks. This is like a common practice, right?
Laravel or whatever.
Yeah, all of them do, right? But I mean, the thing is that you're not supposed to put the ENV file in the repository or
it's not supposed to be in the web root.
Yes,
it's not supposed to be.
Yeah. So,
but if you get add star,
yes. So the reason that they're on the host typically is because for development, you'll use the ENV files in development to pull those down. They're just environment variables, right? When you're running them in a production environment, though, you're going to put them into some kind of secret server, some kind of secret that will pull those ENVs literally into the environment variable and not from the file, right? Yeah. So, this is just bad development practices. And then, just looking for that at scale. And then, those credentials could be anything. They could be, those ENV files could literally be just a URL that's not sensitive, or it could be again, S3 bucket, any kind of API credentials. So, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the people in Discord are just
dot is always how you
hilarious jokes coming across. One joke is Kip says, do you pay the cloud provider data exfil on top of the ransom?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
It's private gig.
So, okay, here's the thing I was thinking about. Imagine your keys get compromised and then you notice your S3 bill is really high and it's because the threat actors are storing other people's stolen data inside of your S3. What do you do? Do you try to sell it?
You ransom their, you try to sell it back to them?
You're if you want to keep all this ransomware data, you got to pay us. Yeah. Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say this is just the complexity. The other interesting thing, the complexity of cloud environments is definitely there. But the other thing that's crazy is the headline is on AWS targets 230 million unique cloud environments. I mean, that's a lot of GET requests. You know what I mean? That's a lot. That's a lot of infrastructure that was required to make that level, to scan that many assets. But it is crazy to think about what you could do just with one AWS account, right? So.
Yeah, rack that bill up, $30,000 in a day. Just have at it.
Yeah. But
I'm just trying to figure out if there was any detections that I could They have some like good Cortex queries, I guess, looking at filter names and data sets, but going about like pre-hunting for those .env files would be the thing you want to do to then change policy, right? So how would I find that
scan yourselves. If you aren't scanning yourself with nuclei, then you're doing it wrong. But like the whole like logging in the cloud is a whole different thing. Like the blog actually recommends using something called Amazon Guard Duty. Does anyone know what that actually is?
Nobody uses that. No.
Yeah, it's it's a
Mm.
product for scanning inside of Amazon for what do you call it? Different.
Oh, I see.
Attack surfaces.
So it would have potentially found,
but it costs lots of money too. So like you gotta like.
Everyone just uses third-party stuff for that anyway.
Yeah.
Why not use a secret manager or secret scanner like Trufflehog or something else on your repos? Would that help? Like, I feel like this is one of those instances where you can catch it in production, like on your actual website, but it's probably better to catch it like developers doing bad stuff, even if it's in dev or QA. Like, shouldn't you be scanning? Like, anytime a secret gets committed into a repo, we've talked about it many times on the show. It's hard to delete them. You have to go back through all the git commit history and everything. Like, I think anytime a secret ends up in a repo, you got to do something about it, even if it's early.
They have automated secret scanning services that will automatically detect when secrets get put into Git repositories. So it's like half the battle, though, Corey. So once it gets put in there, right now that you can go in there and do the cleanup process, right? But you're still going to have to do a cleanup after that. But they do have services that will scan and look for entropy.
Well, there's the hooks that you could have to check for some of that too before.
Yeah, no. So Tim, those work on like a two-way things, right? You can have a runner check before, or you can have a service that will look in any kind of new push. Additionally, another kind of thing that a lot of people use too is when they do a like a merge or someone else does a push to your repo, it will check for secrets before it ends up in the public side of it.
That's what I was going to say. I've seen that implemented a lot, that it just checks the whole repo and then yells at you if it doesn't see anything or doesn't allow you the build to continue.
I mean, you gotta like have all the options, right? Like, it's security, you layer things. So having secret scan, like having things scanning your repos before things are even in production. Also, another fun thing is locking down the permissions of those keys to begin with, right? And not sharing them between dev and prod and all that good stuff. And I think the last thing is, apparently people are saying in chat, guard duty is not that expensive. And I think the other thing that it does is it combines, like, you would be able to search if your data was accessed, which I think for a lot of incident response teams becomes the difficult question to answer. If you don't have good logging in the cloud, you might not even know if your .envs are disclosed, and you have to. I mean, you should probably roll everything anyway, but it's nice to know whether your data was accessed or not.
My main thing about that is usually the defenders don't have access to those AWS stuff, right? And then getting those people who have that sysadmin level access to actually initiate that, or to at least get them to check, is not an easy thing. You have to like really build those connections with your engineering team, and then be like, hey, give me the logs and I need to compare them to what we have in our SIM to make sure that you're logging everything correctly, or at least we have everything.
The other thing that kind of upsets me about the cloud security, like guard duty and everything else that Microsoft offers, it's all an extra thing you have to turn on, like security. Like, it should be more included, right? Like, I kind of understand both sides, because obviously it's not free. The resources aren't free to log this stuff. But on the other thing, it's kind of like after something bad happens, you're like, oh crap, well, I should have signed up for E95 license, or I don't get the
Yeah.
So,
no,
didn't
that's part of
Microsoft
it.
just change their defaults? I
They
feel like I
did.
saw an article about a month or two ago that they had changed their defaults to actually have some of that stuff enabled by.
Yes, they
at the
did.
get-go.
But they were basically under consent decree to do that in my book, because of the whole State Department hack that happened. And like tons of organizations were like, well, we don't even know if we got hacked. And they were like, crap. That's not good.
We don't have the logs for that, because they're
CYA.
dealing with scale.
So, okay, hearing what Wade said, it sounds like the answer is basically if the engineering team doesn't trust the security team, you just tell them to turn on guard duty, and then you have the alerts going into your SIM. Then you don't have to have the access to pull them yourself.
Then you cry at night because you see everything that the engineering team is actually doing. And you're just like, "Dear God, like, we're doomed." Like,
sometimes
they're sending the .env files to each other. No.
Is this a bucket that's public that has all the ENV files in it? Yeah, we needed that for integration of all of our cloud services.
Listen, there's entropy in the URL. They don't know it's .prom.
They can't guess the URL. It's just /_/env.
I hate you that you said that because I have made that. I've had to deal with that argument several times. Like
security through obscurity.
No, it's not a thing.
So I've seen that too on like S3 buckets or whatever. They'll be like some web application. They'll add a little bit of entropy to the URL, right? And they'll be like, oh well, anyone can read it. It's just you got to know the URL, right? So like that's like enough, right? I'm like, you can sign these too. Like that's not like actually controlling access. That's just putting your little like salt in there, right? Your little flavor.
My only bug bounty I've ever found was a medical company who did that same thing.
Yep.
And they're supposed to have entropy through base 64. So I look at the URL and it's just in base 64, and I'm like, uh-oh. And so I throw it in. I go up a record. Oh, there's this guy. Go down a record. Oh, there's this guy. I will admit they were super cool about fixing it, and then had me test it again later on. But
up
still,
a record, down a record.
Yeah. It was bad.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was the only time I've ever actually made money at bug bountying.
So, okay, here's another thing to think about, and this will probably come up in my webcast later this week. But guess what? Histories are not private anymore because of Stealer logs. Stealer logs grab the URLs you visit.
Yes.
And so if you have sensitive data in the URLs, someone can go back to the history and see all those URLs, even if they're hidden or whatever. They're still saved. They're saved on every device and synced and all that good stuff.
This has happened a bunch of times in the past with even security tools like secure chat programs. Well, what they'll do is they'll put the images on a bucket and they'll put entropy in the image, but the image never gets deleted, right? Even though the chat is encrypted, and then people just start looking through all of those, or they get access to the URL or the bucket or whatever in the past, and next thing you know, it's not really secure.
Yep. Fun. All right, what else is going on? Who else got hacked? Tim, did you Kerberos anyone lately?
No, I did a lot of PowerPoint. That's my. That's my.
Can't relate.
First. Yeah.
I hope you're finding 0 days and not building presentations.
Oh gosh, what a way!
Okay,
I guess he's embedded in the PowerPoint. That's where the fun begins.
If people want, we could wade into the whole facial recognition on kids thing.
What? I didn't even see that one.
It was down in the political government.
Yeah,
section.
this is kind of a sigh.
Is there a dystopian section I missed?
Is there a dystopian section?
I told you the government section.
You got to know the right URL, okay?
I mean, okay, this is like breaking news, or this is, they're looking into this. This is a Prism level, Snowden level type of thing. It's like they're looking into this. Basically, there's a system. The Department of Homeland Security, who we know and we trust, they definitely aren't sketchy at all. They are trying to use facial recognition to track the identities of migrant children down to the infant, which is a quote, and then kind of see as they age. I guess the assumption is if you had a picture of someone crossing the border at age 4, and then 10 years later they go to get their identity, or their social security number or whatever, how do you somehow track if they did something bad like 10 years ago? I don't know. Like
Google already does this a little bit though.
Yeah.
With the facial tracking on your photos, like as someone with a baby that like it's gone from 0 to 1, like it has watched him grow and it picks him out like
I'm sure they're
purchasing
scary. I'm sure they're purchasing your baby's data from Google for a very high fee.
How do I poison the well?
Yeah.
Potatoes? Just take pictures of potatoes. I don't know.
So I think you're just saying that the technology exists, Corey, to do this, that just applying it in weird.
Yeah, I mean, this is read the whole article. It's a pretty long article. Like, it's not really in place yet. And it's like, are there, this is kind of early warning, and are there rules that are going to prevent it or not? After they published this, they said, oh, no, we don't have plans to do this. But it's kind of like the Prism thing where it's like, well, Snowden said you guys were doing this, and you had a PowerPoint that you built about it, and now you're claiming that, no, you're totally doing not that. How, who do we believe? You can see the political, the political writing is on the wall of like a lawmaker would totally ask for this. Like, we need to know who crossed the border forever or whatever.
Forever.
But I don't know.
They're already doing that for adults, right? Like,
Yeah.
I came in from an international flight, and they literally like, hey, just stand here, and then like, okay, Wade, you can go, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, there was a camera I didn't even see that just facial recognized and had all my information, and so
I mean, yeah, I mean, the article calls out, which is terrifying, that the Border Patrol has been using a mobile app where people have to submit selfies to verify their identity before they enter the country. I guess.
I've had to do that for international travel for visas.
Yeah.
It's a more complicated process, or you do it on site, or you download their app and they want to prove you're live, so you move your face around. I mean, they already, when I check into the country, I'm already giving them my passport and they've got my face. So, I mean, not to be cynical once again, but
sure,
what to do.
I mean, I think it's just, I guess this is one where it's like what laws apply to, aliens or whatever we're calling them, like undocumented people. Like, are they subject to any rules, or are they just like all laws are off? You collect whatever data you want. Biometrics are fine. DNA is fine. Whatever. Like, I don't know. It's kind of a tough one. But
stuff like facial recognition is generally very under-regulated in the United States to begin with. Like, there isn't actually a lot of law in the books regulating either private or governmental usage of it. And so even as a citizen, you don't actually have much protecting you on that front.
So you definitely don't have rights as a potential citizen or whatever.
Oh God, no.
Well, what if we like kind of pulled a kind of a camera back just a little bit, and not just about maybe illegal aliens or border crossing, right? Let's just think about U.S. citizens in general, right, or just anyone in America, and being able to take that image and quickly discover who they are because you have archival records of pictures of them historically, right, into like some national database, right? So I mean, I think that this could be applied to do a lot more than just find illegal aliens.
Oh yeah,
it could also be used to find criminals, right, that have committed a crime. They didn't commit a crime when they got the originals, but now connecting them quickly to solve these kind of things.
It's a privacy disaster. We didn't talk about the article, but there was one, I think it was in the show notes last week, which was they're thinking about implementing this at NFL games. Like facial recognition is coming to all NFL stadiums like this season, supposedly, where like instead of getting groped by some dude at the entrance, you just scan your face, and then I guess I don't know what that's gonna do. Like, is it
if you shoot everyone, they know who you are?
Yeah.
Well, no,
you're getting groped. At
I don't know.
The use of face paint is going to go out the roof.
The face paint.
So they could detect you before you get in there, right? So like you could have already been in trouble.
Well, I will say this is the privacy thing. The companies that are doing this always exchange for something else. Like this one is okay. This is a vendor. It's called Wicket. Basically they say that it's for like you don't have to provide your QR code, so it's to speed things up, and you also don't have to get carded at every bar. You just scan your face, and it's like, oh yeah, this person's 21 or up. So it's like that's how they get you, because they get you with like the quick thing of it's convenient.
You don't have to pull your wallet out ever again.
Yeah. I mean, the TSA is doing it too. TSA is doing facial recognition too. I don't know. It sounds like everyone's rolling out facial recognition, and I don't know. To Tim's point, like, does it really matter what happens to all this data? We all know it just gets put into an S3 bucket and probably never touched again. But, when there's a breach of this data, it's going to be ridiculous. Like, just imagine going through a breach of like NFL game. You could see a picture of just a guy sober at the entrance. Then he's getting progressively drunk at his first beer. Then his second beer, when he had to ID for that, he's really drunk. And then his face got painted after the third beer.
Oh,
he's shirtless.
You want me to send you my selfies from the next Packer game I go to? Just give them to you.
Yeah, do it. I mean, I don't know. I guess like it's so tough because privacy is tough. It's just tough. But yeah,
it goes back to that same thing. Like, we don't own it, so what can we expect for protections? Because we just don't have any access to it. So it's that cynicism of I give up because I got nothing here.
Yeah, I also think like all the possibilities for it to go wrong are going to create some hilarious articles for us to talk about on the news. That's why they're doing it. They're doing it for us.
So we should rejoice.
That's exactly.
This is job security.
What what does law enforcement do once they have a database of like facial, like, could you imagine doing?
Here's all the
OSINT?
drunk people at football
Yeah,
games.
right.
What are you going to do with that data?
Oh, you get.
I think a smaller data set would be the sober people at a football game.
That's actually priority number one. They are suspicious.
They're
That's
probably
the kids.
terrorists.
The kids.
spend up
What?
money.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how the facial recognition thing rolls out, how accurate it is. What are twins going to do? Is it going to be like, your ticket has already been used by your twin brother? And he's like, ha, gotcha. I used your
Got him.
ticket.
I told you not to let me go first.
No, I mean, he just, like, they're in this scenario, they're estranged brothers.
No,
And
I
he
know.
just always steals his Packer tickets. He's like always gets there before his twin brother who bought the tickets.
Oh my gosh.
We could talk about Flint getting breached, but honestly, like, Flint's already had a rough time. They don't have clean water. So
Yeah. Flint
We
got-
could do the same thing for the Avanti vulnerability.
I know an article that we can talk about. So, there was one that was like, okay, it's literally the first article in the
The
list.
6 ransomware gangs.
Yeah. So the article is basically 6 ransomware gangs are behind over 50% of the attacks this year. So it's like, just like airlines and all other industries, turns out ransomware is consolidating.
Only the big 5.
Is it that? Is it
they're
actually that?
basically full-fledged business operations. They've
Oh,
got
yeah,
HR
for
departments and benefits. And
I just
They have
imagine
customer service. They
when
probably
you
have
apply to
Jira.
one, they ask
SLAs.
you if you've worked for the big 5. Like, which big 5 have you worked for?
If you work for the big five.
The ones that are
Yeah, so
extorting
this-
me. Yeah, I need more information. That's not
Can you
helpful.
provide a chat log of you extorting someone? We want to see how good you are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, I do think that, like, it does make sense that this kind of thing would consolidate because there's law enforcement involved. Like, their days are numbered, so scaling up generally helps, right? Because you have more chances to, get the ransom back before you get caught. I mean, this is analysis or research by, again, Palo Alto Unit 42. They're really trying to hit the PR ground heavy after that command injection flaw from earlier this year. But so basically Lockbit 3.0 is the number one with 325 victims. And this is just the data they've published, by the way. This isn't actually, like, they might have more that they haven't published. There's
that the
number
kicker?
number 2 is called Play, which I've actually never heard of. Fiddling Scorpius.
Yeah, there's a couple on here
155
that
victims.
I haven't heard of.
I had
that
never
one.
heard of that one. And then 8base is a newcomer, but has 119 victims. These are all claimed victims. They could totally just be saying we breached FBI, and it's not actually true.
Do you think these ransomware groups have an ISACA where they like information sharing and share like resources?
Oh yeah, it's all glass too with the windows that you just like say and it just like fogs. And
They just
stuff.
have like a Slack. They all get in together and be like, "Hey, this driver vulnerability. This is the one." Like,
Honestly, I think they
Ransom
work
Slack.
against each other. That's
well, yeah,
They're
with-
competitors.
the
I
thing
think
is
they're
though,
competitors.
most big competitors in the U.S. still talk to each other about things like. I don't want to go into it, but I know several big competitors who have yearly meetings to discuss business and discuss how things are going and ordered ways that everyone can grow equally, right?
Like, we
One
wouldn't
of
just
these
set the
big meetings is
maximum
Wild
lifespan.
West Hackenfest, right?
We wouldn't set the maximum lifespan of a light bulb and then just agree to that as an industry, would we?
Ah.
I mean that's a good point. You're right. Like, they do have something to gain. Like, hey, FBI took down this people. Don't do business with them right now or whatever.
It's funny you should mention that because I was going to say the thing that I actually find this story quite depressing because we've had, look at it, right? We've had Lockbit takedowns. We've got, we're posting details about who Lockbit Sup is and who is still number one out of the
Lockbit.
6 that are 50% of the volume. Of
But
attacks. It's
Lockbit is like they're the 800-pound gorilla in the ransomware industry. They're like I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy.
They were
the
paying
American
people to get
Airlines.
tattoos.
800-pound gorilla and a cockroach.
They're the
you can't kill
AWS
them.
of ransomware
Why no one can arrest these people? Like, they're just unstoppable.
because they're allowed to do it. They're sanctioned in some level or
Yeah,
by their
right.
governments. You have to assume that they're
Yeah.
sanctioned by like their own governments, that they permit it or at least condone it, right?
As long as they do something for me.
Yeah, I mean, you got to assume Russia, just given the geopolitics of the world right now. Like, Russia could use some Bitcoin right now.
North Korea too.
North Korea, yeah, totally.
I mean, well, North Korea, it's a primary source of income.
Yeah, literally, that's how they get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read a whole book about money laundering. Trust me.
How did you like that? I haven't read it yet.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
It was good. Okay.
It was if you're like if you're into cyber security, you would love this book.
Okay, I'll pick it up.
Wade's not really into that cybersecurity stuff.
I'm not. I'm into quasi-criminal things, you know.
Allegedly.
If
you do want to get into the money laundering industry, it will give you kind of the quick start guide, but it will also tell you that it's not a good idea.
First, you buy vanilla gift cards with cash.
Yeah.
Then
it's not a how-to.
At some point, the fraud goes so far that you're like, just get a job. This is way harder than just making minimum wage.
No, these are real. They're working. They're working, but it's kind of illegal.
All right. Any other articles? Closers? Anyone got a closer?
This week.
Yeah, don't leave us hanging with what's the book, man? Where everybody's
You're gonna post that in the chat, right?
It was the author was on Darknet Diaries, so you know.
That's still not the answer.
OSINT it. That's your answer is OSINT the book. Thanks.
I like to give, I'm giving Ralph the chance here to control C, control
come
V.
on. I'm doing it as fast as I can right now, and
he's Googling. Got it.
He's got to check 18 security cameras first.
What? That only happened once.
He has a webcast about that.
It's money laundering for dummies. Here's a link to it. No.
He's waiting for his chicken order to go through.
Chicken price fixing case in the chat.
Find this.
Just go to Darknet Diaries. Let's see.
I have one we could close out. So
Go for it.
Did anyone see this JP Morgan? But like JP Morgan is the name of a ransomware criminal.
Oh, that is great. That's such a good idea.
So, okay. This is a good closer because basically the US has charged a Belarusian cyber criminal who started doing crime back in 2011, back in the wee days of ransomware. But essentially, they took 9 years to sort of track them down, and eventually they got arrested last year in Spain. And I guess like the reason it's a good article to close on is because like the law enforcement people, they have unlimited budgets. They're if you're bad enough, they're going to come after you for 10 years or 20 years. I mean, is there a statute of limitations? Maybe. But like, man, for international cybercrime like this, you're going to get got eventually. And apparently this individual practiced what they call extreme online privacy or extreme really good OPSEC, which probably just means they didn't use their personal email to send ransom notes, but we don't know. But yeah, I mean, I guess they will find you. Is the moral of the story.
I thought it was interesting that the name JP Morgan, Lansky, and XXX. I'm like, how many users had to be named XXX? I feel like they just threw that in there. Like, yeah, I'd probably use that one too.
JP Morgan is hilarious. Like, of all
funny.
the things to choose, like it's funny. Like if you just read the headline, it's like, okay, so JP Morgan's been charged with ransomware. What? I thought he was dead.
That's what I thought too. I was like, what? I thought it was when it was talking about the big five before. I thought it was like one of those financials, like flipping the script.
I mean, JP Morgan, that's like, isn't that like a, we're talking like 18th or 19th century, right? Like that's old school. I don't think he knew much about ransomware.
No, he did. It just was different back then.
It was called banking, and it was damn good business.
It was called a hostile takeover.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you guys call it. I just call it getting rich.
The book was rinsed, by the way.
Yeah,
I'll just say it on the stream.
Book.
Yeah.
Sorry for making everyone wait.
Yes. It actually, if you do want a fun read, it was a really good read. And
it's called Rinsed by who?
Jeff White.
Jeff White. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's really good, and it actually cross-sects a lot of cyber stuff, right? Because high tech, Bitcoin, other things like that. And then it also intersects into the what the author calls and kind of the name is the meat space, which is everything outside of the digital world, right? So
I wasn't sure how techie it was gonna get, so I didn't pick it up yet. But now that you gave seal of approval, I will pick it up later today.
Oh yeah, no, it's super interesting. It's not just about the tech; it's also about the people, which is kind of like what makes a story good. So
yeah, the article that made it onto the part of the book that made it onto Darknet Diaries was talking about the cell phone service that was set up by law enforcement, and then it just got too big, and they were like, "There's too many criminals," and they had to shut it down. So,
well, no,
that was a different book.
Which
That was
I
a
also
different book.
read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called a nom.
No,
right?
that was the
that
same book.
episode was called a nom. The book's called Dark Wire.
Yes,
And that
yes.
one is pretty good. Well, it's
Yeah,
cool-
the Dark Wire. If you like the Dark Wire book, Wade, you'll love this book because there's a lot of intersection between those industries, right?
Okay.
Because, they're both crime and they talk about the anom phone. They talk about other encrypted phones and how that affects the money laundering and how connected money laundering is to doing illicit activity, whatever that activity is.
Maybe there needs to be like a 3-pack of those two books and then Tracers in the Dark. If you've read that, right?
3-pack.
The 3-pack. Like here's all
A
your
trilogy
cybercrime
that
stuff.
you didn't know you needed.
Yeah.
The trilogy of real cybercrime.
Yes, exactly. Pretty cool.
Nice.
Anyways.
All right. I think it's time to shut it down. Everyone have a good week, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wait, what is okay. Next week, yes.
Brian's like,
2
hold
weeks.
on.
Well done.
2 weeks from now.
Is
that
it-
reminded me. There's a holiday coming up, and so that's the September 2nd show. We won't be here. So reminder.
We'll
to
be
everybody.
out on Labor Day, but we'll be here next week.
All
Bye-bye.
right, next week.